Assalamualaikum. My name is Mohamed Jailam. I'm the co-founder and CEO and managing director at Javaabu Limited.
I'm Arushadh Ahmed. I think that was the Chief Technology Officer and co-founder of Javaabu Limited.
Yeah. Before we begin, I would like to thank the organizers of the event, specifically Mahaldi Foundation and the MN Maldives National University Students Union, for inviting us to share our experience at Javaabu. First of all, I would like to ask you the question. When we say Javaabu, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you say Javaabu? Questions? Yes? Answers? Anything from the guys? Solutions? Okay. So does it appear to you that Javaabu might be a tech-based company might be called Javaabu? I mean, if you name a tech-based company, do you think Javaabu could be an appropriate name? Not necessarily. Okay, so our company is called Javaabu Private Limited. Our main area of work is in the field of web development, as was mentioned before. So you could actually imagine us as a Silicon Valley startup. But rather than being on Silicon Valley, we are in Mafanu, Izzuddin, Maghreb. So that's the difference. So actually the name Javaabu, the reason why we called it Javaabu has a story behind it. I'll pass it to Arushadh. Why is it called Javaabu?
Okay, so back in 2016, when we first wanted to register the business officially, we needed to come up with a name for the business. So we were brainstorming different names, and I asked my friends for advice on what would be a good name for a web design firm. So my friends always tell me that, including Jailam himself, that I'm a person who asks a lot of questions. So maybe sometimes to the point of annoyance, right? So I think as a joke, one of my friends suggested that why don't you call the company Sual? So I thought to myself, people don't want questions, right? So they only want answers. So it immediately clicked to me, Javaabu would be a perfect name for our business. So that's how the name got started.
Okay, so that's what we actually wanted to be the solution. So instead of calling us this solution, since we are based in Maldives, we thought, why won't we go with Javaabu? So that's how we came up with the name Javaabu. So anyhow, as we mentioned before, our main area of work is in the field of web development. So far during the last 2 years that we have spent is Javaabu, we actually have done a lot of work for many of the government organizations and NGOs. So some of our clients, they include Maldives Energy Authority, Television Corporation, MRDC, Red Crescent, Maldives Post, Salaf, Jamid Salaf, Awaskat, Linksa, Maldives Economic Ministry, Transport Authority, Fisheries Ministry, and you go on and on. So we have actually had the opportunity to serve the government as well as the private sector and accommodate for their various web development needs, whether it's a website, whether it's a web-based platform or a web-based mobile application. We are actually providing that solution.
Okay, so as you can see here, most of our clients are enterprise level clients from the public sector and the private sector. So consumers or the general public might not have heard of us till now. But we do have a new venture that we started recently that is actually focused directly to consumers or the public as well. So this is our Javaabu Academy, which is our training platform. So Jailam would give some description of it.
Yeah. So what actually happened was we in the beginning of 2019, this year, 2018, right? 18, we actually moved into a new office. So we actually had some space available which could be used as a multi-purpose space. And then what happened was moving into a new office, and we had lots of expenditures. We hired two permanent employees, and this actually added up to our overcost. Overhead cost needed to be covered monthly. Since we worked on project basis, some of the projects they pay us 6 months, they pay us after 4 months or so. When you work in the government, with the government, you normally have delays in the payments. So for that reason, we actually had to come up with something which we could do that would give us some amount of cash, in the sense which we will help us to pay our rents and bills. So one thing which I always find myself passionate to do is teaching. I like to teach people. I found myself teaching in every single grade I am. So since I was into web development, I thought, why not we actually start some web development courses? We could have short-term courses, and so we started Javaabu Academy, and we started two main courses. One was Introduction to Web Development. So if you're a beginner who wants to learn about web development, who wants to who wants to learn into web development but cannot get yourself started, then you could come to one of our classes. During the past 4 months, we had a couple of batches, around 4 batches one for the web development course, and we found all the students joining back to our second course, which was PHP and MySQL web development, which was more focused on dynamic web development and database management. So this was the courses that we have been holding, offline courses which we have been starting here.
So we have been conducting these classes at our office for the past 3 or 4 months. So when we first advertised for these courses, we started getting a lot of requests from people, from students in the islands. So obviously there was no easy way for them to come all the way to Malaysia to just join our classes. So we thought, why don't we start some online classes so that we can open up the platform for the whole of Maldives or even the wider world. So just recently, it was last Monday, we conducted our first online class. So around 15 students from around the Maldives joined this class. So here you can see Jailam starting the class around like 8:30. I think it was last Monday night. So this was what happened immediately after we started the class. There was a power outage from the whole block. So anyway, we continued on. We were able to continue using our backup connection.
Okay, well, this is not on. Yeah, so we had an outage. We went on backup power, and we started the classes, and we managed to complete the classes. And we had another class last Wednesday night. So it was really inspiring that students from around the country, from Kuludapushy, from Attu, from Shaviani, from Rayathol, they all were joining our classes. They were really eager to learn, and we will continue the classes to this month, and next month onwards we are starting our second batch with PHP and MySQL web development online. We actually the platform we actually built for these online classes will actually be open for public, where teachers who are interested can communicate, can get in touch with us, and they could also teach their expertise to students across the country. So anyhow, what I was thinking was one reason why we started the Javaabu Academy online classes, online platform, is because we want to revolutionize the form of education that we have in Maldives. Because often we have students who are learning in Maldives, they get the opportunity to learn, and if anybody from the islands, if they want to learn, they have to migrate to Malé, live in horrible conditions, and they have to attend different colleges and pay expensive fees. So this was something we thought should actually be improved, because technology has evolved, and we don't believe that the teacher and the students should be physically in the same room. They could be across the world, but they could still be connected, and that's something which we actually drove in through our classes, and we actually hope to negotiate with telecommunication companies, where they would also provide help in terms of providing our students with the internet services they require to continue. So hopefully we actually plan to make this thing even bigger and provide it across, open it for the public, for students and teachers to sign up. I think that's enough about us. There's a font issue. Okay. Okay. So anyhow, I think that summarizes what we actually do here at Javaabu. Most of our work is in the field of web development, but you might have heard about us, about our Javaabu Academy portal. So now we would like to give you some tips, because the reason why you attended this class or this seminar is because you actually want to contribute, you want to learn how it's possible to start your own startup and maybe become entrepreneurs yourself. So one of the first tips that we would like to give you is, okay, you should develop your skills. So the first thing, I think the very first website that we started to do was when we were in grade 11. So actually we are the same age. We're 25, though I look really older. So anyhow, when we were in grade 11, we actually used to, we made the website for CHSC. So one day we proposed to Madam Safura that why not we as senior prefects then, we would design a website for the school. So I remember me and Arushadh working together at the computer lab with George, and he was the computer technician then, and trying to come up, figuring out how HTML and CSS actually work.
So this was back in around 8 years ago, I think around maybe 2010 or 2011. So you have to know that, like, when Jailam first proposed the idea to Madam Safura, that was the principal, neither of us has actually done any website from scratch. So we actually had to learn how to write HTML, how to do CSS while we were actually doing the project. But the school actually didn't know about this. They actually saw the final product, which was delivered here. So after like 3-4 months of work, we were able to launch the website that is still being used today.
Okay. So here you see young Arushadh, the younger version of Arushadh launching the website. Then the vice president, Dr. Mohamed Wahid, together with the principal. So overall, what we want to actually mention here is that you actually have to, there will be a point in your career where you actually don't know what you're doing. So you'll actually learn, you'll figure things out, and then you are going to develop it. So this was the pre-registration stage, pre-Javaabu stage, where we were just young students learning at CHSC, and we were figuring things out. We were learning about web development then. So after we graduated, we finished the CHSC, we were working. I was working more in the field of graphics design. So I registered myself. I added a listing on eBay myself as a graphics designer, and I would sign up as a freelance graphics designer who you can hire to do your CVs, blah blah blahs, and all those graphics works. Then we started getting some projects. At the same time, Arushadh was also listed as a web developer on eBay, and we started getting just a few projects from here and there. And the projects that we got, of course, we didn't actually quote them the same prices that we are quoting our clients now. Then it would be just 2,000 or 3,000 rupiah, a few thousands rupiah. But the basic idea was that we were building our profile. We were actually building up, we were testing our skills, and we were developing as we went.
So this was back in around 2013. So initially, me personally, I didn't have the confidence to do like projects or freelance work for money, right? But I saw what the work that Jailam was doing with his freelance graphics work, and I started out with one of the opportunities that he found me. I think it was a guest house website. It was around only, I think, 4,500 rupees or something. So that is how I started to get into the freelance web development market. So at those times when we did the freelance work, we didn't actually get any formal reference letters or any sort of that from our clients. But later on, when after I graduated and when we started Javaabu, initially what happened was when we started to go for tenders, you actually needed to have a formal portfolio. Like you needed to have formal references from your past clients. So the first thing we had to do was we had to run after all our previous past clients to get references from them. So most of them are quite busy with their work, so they didn't actually have the time to write letters. So what we did was we drafted a template so they can just sign it off and give it to us. So that was our freelance workstation. So I think Jailam would elaborate on how we started to go into the more professional web development market.
Like Arushadh said, we actually, when you build your profile, you actually need to get reference letters from your clients. So if you actually have done any work for your client, whether it's a graphics designing work or whether it's a web development work, or maybe you actually working at engineering level, you're an engineer who actually repairs cars or repairs motorcycles. It doesn't matter. You have to go and get the references because they actually build up, they actually collect up. And when you approach another client, when you approach some maybe a government institution, they actually require those documents that that actually prove that which actually becomes proof that you have been doing this for a long time. So you actually, one of our main I think the biggest client then was we had a tender announced by Mauli's Red Crescent. And Arushadh was actually studying in Malaysia then. So I thought, why not we actually team up and work on this. So I had my background in web development, in graphics design. I wasn't much into web development, but Arushadh was in Malaysia and he was building up his skills. So we actually teamed up and we submitted a tender. And then I would say we were not actually really hopeful that we would win it, because we had lots of competition, real competition from people who were really doing this. So, but it turns out that we won the bid, and it was a real surprise for us. But because and it was real good news for us, because we were being for the first time in our lives, we were actually being awarded real money, real worth good money. So this was a golden opportunity for us, because we had an MRC which was a well-established, well-recognized NGO, and we have the opportunity to serve them. So we took the best, did our best work, and we made the website for them. For the MRC, and we got the reference letters as well. So this was so at that level we were, so you could call us a semi-professional development team, not actually Javaabu itself. So then we started. Arushadh finished his studies and he came back, and then we thought, why not we actually make this thing, take this thing to the next level. So that was when it started to become risky. So the first thing you have to realize about a business, becoming an entrepreneur, especially if you don't have a wealthy background, you definitely face a lot of risks. And when you live in Mali, when you live in the Maldivian society, the 90% of that risk will be financial risks. So at the time of 2015, at the end of 2015, I was already a father. I had a wife and a kid, and I had a financial obligation to upon them. But what actually happened was I was also completing my studies in Sri Lanka. So I was actually doing the first year. After finishing the first year, I came back, and we were doing our freelance works like the way we used to have. And then what happened was, since these projects, they paid off in 2 or 3 months' time, that's not enough time. I mean, I needed money at the end of the month, because we need to pay off the rents, we need to pay off the bills. So at this point, it was a crucial stage of my life, personally in my life. And I would like to thank my family, and as well as Arushadh, who actually backed me up financially as well as emotionally to to continue on doing the work which I did. Because if I could not have got that, I think this is one of the crucial stages that many of the people who actually try to become entrepreneurs, they face is when they don't have a financial backing, they are forced to do some work, whether it might be related to a field where they're interested in, or which might not actually be something where they will be willing to do, because financially you need to provide, you need to do your obligations to your family and to your loved ones. So the first thing, if you are actually thinking seriously to become an entrepreneur, you actually need to have some sort of a financial backing.
Okay, so as I said, as Jailam was talking about, both of us, we had to make some hard decisions, right? So when I finished my degree back in 2016, I came back to Maldives, and I started applying for jobs, and also we started applying for some tenders as well. So before we got any offers, I had to wait for around 3 months. So the first offer I got was from Javaabu for a software developer position. It was a very highly paid job as well. Also, at the same time, we were fortunately awarded one of our first major projects from the government. So, anyways, I started working at Javaabu. So this was my first full-time job at an office. So I started working there, but what happened was during the day I was going to office from 8 to 4 every day, and at night I had to work on our projects. So it was actually quite tiring. So finally I had to make a decision whether I wanted to go into a daily job or if I wanted to dedicate myself for our business. So after just 2 weeks of going to Javaabu, I finally made a decision after talking to my friends as well as my family. So I vividly remember the day, I think it was on Thursday. So actually my boss had assigned me some work for that week, and I had actually completed it. So actually office closes around 4 p.m. So just before that, I called my boss to show the work that I had done. So I finished the demo. He was sitting right beside me, and he was actually quite happy and satisfied with the work I had done. But after that, I mentioned that I actually had a huge news, some news that I wanted to share with him. So I said, looked at him and said, I wanted to quit. So immediately his face, his smile turned into a frown, and his heart was, I think, broken. So I had to make that hard decision. If I hadn't made the decision that day, I don't think we would be here today, like with Javaabu as it is now.
Okay, so moving on. Yeah, the next thing you have to understand is when you become, actually if you're serious of becoming an entrepreneur, first thing is you need to brand yourself. So what actually happened with us was we were approaching different government organizations, different tenders with our own names, like as individuals. But what happened was that some of the government institutions, they require that the participants of the tenders be business entities. So we had to become a business entity. So another thing is that when you become, when you brand yourself, it's you actually are telling people that, you know what, I'm serious about this. I'm not going to be that guy who actually was surfing the other day, and today I'm doing web development, and tomorrow maybe I might be working as a clerk in some other office. You are a dedicated web developer. And once your clients, once the companies or organizations then know that you are a dedicated person who will be there for you, for support, who will be available for the next 5 years as a web developer, then you build trust. So for an organization to award you a project that is 500K or plus, it is actually difficult for them to award it to you if you're not branded. If you're not, if you're still an individual who might leave for studies the next year, or who might actually not be available due to your financial status or whatever it could be. So when you become when you actually become our entrepreneur, you need to come out with a good brand, and that brand will not necessarily reflect you alone. It should be a team. So first thing we did when we started Javaabu was we formed a sole proprietorship. It was with the name of Arushadh, but later as we expanded, we actually wanted to renamed the business entity. We reformed it into an company so that we could actually expand, and this was a necessary step. Of course, after forming a company, you had lots of other headaches like paperwork, taxes. But regardless of that, you actually need to tell your customers. You need to let your clients know that, you know what, I'm seriously into this. We are actually really doing this. You can trust us.
Okay, so when we started going into the professional software or web development market, we actually faced a lot of competition. If you consider all this, even there are a lot of web development or software development firms in the market. So why should a client give their project to us instead of handing it out to all those experienced developers who have been working here for such a long time? So, unfortunately, in the Maldivian software development market, the developers or web development firms here are not that reliable. So, most of our clients, they have had very bad experiences with fast developers. So, what we have been trying to do is we try to always be honest with our clients. We try to be professional, and we always try to communicate well with our clients. So in that way we can build trust between ourselves and the clients. And I think it has paid off, and we have started getting repeat clients that they personally approach us without us having to go to them.
So one thing actually we did was we didn't actually look at the other people and see how they were doing it. We actually wanted to do it the right way. So yes, there have been cases where we were not being able to deliver the final product on the due date. It happens. But then you have to communicate. You have to tell them, you know what, we had these delays, we had it from our side, we had it from your side, so let's just negotiate an extension. Negotiate an extension. And then trust me, clients, they are more than happy. But what actually, from our personal experience as well, I would share with you, we have been trying to get developers to come aboard on us or work with us on part-time basis, but often what happens is 2 days after we hire them work, they don't pick up the phone. And communication is the most important thing. Maybe they are sick, maybe they are not working, I don't know, maybe they might actually be busy with some personal issue, but they have to communicate. So one of the essential things that we do at Javaabu is that we communicate with our clients. So once a client, if we have a delay, we tell them, if they arrange a meeting with us, we would do whatever we can to go on time and meet them and tell them, you know what, okay, we are facing this issue in this project. We were not able to work on it as much as we wanted. We had our staff was sick, was not available. We had to communicate it. So when you become when you are honest with your clients, when you are honest when you become professional, you don't take anything personally. When you take it professionally, then the trust is still there. So like Arushadh said, we have a couple of clients who are repeated customers. Of course, we would tender to every bid, but in terms of trustworthiness, they would trust us better. They actually trust us more than the competition that we have. So if you are starting your own business, please be honest. Please communicate as much as possible. Try to be as professional as you could be. Another thing you have to do is you have to dedicate yourself to your business. So one thing I actually thought was, you see, previously, before I was employed at Javaabu, I was working at Maldives High Court. I was working there for around a year. I worked at Maldives High Employment Tribunal for like 6 months, and I was working at some of the private sector companies, and then I would always think to myself that, you know what, I'm going to start my own business. Okay, so what would happen is, you know what, due to the rain, I would come to office 5 minutes late, 6 minutes late. I would get my salaries deducted. That was really depressing for me. It was like dehumifying my worthiness. So it was something really dissatisfying to see that your worthiness is less than, they don't actually give you the excuse. You might have to go and do a personal favor that was really urgent for you, but you know what, you can't go because you're working in a government office. So at such situations, I would say to myself, you know what, I'm going to make my own business. I don't need these people. But you have to, you actually need to look before you leap. So, but the basic idea is, I actually thought to myself that when I make my own business, I would be able to work whenever I want. I would take leave whenever I need. I would just work a few hours every day, maybe 1 or 2 hours, and maybe in the evening I'll just go out with my son every day. But I'll tell you, that's not the situation. When you actually start your own business, you actually get you have to work more hours. That's because you need to dedicate yourself to the business. If you can't dedicate yourself to the business, if you can't look after the business yourself, then you won't be growing enough. I normally on my working days, I would be coming to office around 9. Actually, to be honest, it's around 11. Around 11, I will come to office, and then I'm supposed to come at 8. But I come at around 11 because I have some personal, I have to take care of my son, I have to babysit him in the morning. So I come around 11 or 12. Usually if you have a meeting, I would come for the meeting hours at around 10. And then I would find myself going back to home around 1 or 2 in the morning. So I'm saying in the night, of course. So if I go around 12, that's an early home day. So I find myself working, but you know, I don't find the tiredness because I do what I love to do. Web development is my passion, and I like doing it. So even if I have to work longer hours, it doesn't matter for me. So when you are starting your own business, do something that you can actually do, that you will love doing it. Because once you do something you love to do, then no longer you are working. You are you're actually filling your time with happiness. So you have to dedicate yourself. If you can't dedicate yourself to your business, then don't expect it to win.
So you might think that to start a business you need a lot of resources or a lot of capital. But it turns out if you have the right skills, you don't actually need much capital or money to start a business. So you can always start small. For example, we started off working right from our houses, like homes. So we would do the codings at home. We would only attend the meetings some other place with the clients. Initially, when we were doing freelance, we would go to meetings at maybe cafes, I think. And when we started working on government projects, we would have meetings at their offices. So that is how we initially started. But once we wanted to expand and scale it higher, we needed to collaborate more. So for that, I think it was in 2017. Yeah, I think early last year, we rented a small room. It was a room from some apartment. Actually, people were living there. So we had that room for ourselves. It was quite small. The biggest problem with the place was there was no toilet. So when we wanted to go to the toilet, we had to go to some other house, or sometimes we would use the toilets at the mosque in front of the house. So that was our first office. So after that, we moved to a newer office, but that was actually smaller than the initial place, but that place at least had a toilet. So, okay, so that meant we could work longer hours, and actually we had to put in a lot of time working there, right?
Yeah. The second place, it had a toilet, but it wasn't really a comfortable to use toilet because it was kind of very dirty. So anyhow, the basic idea is we fit ourselves into a small room. I would say like half of the stage. It was the size. We had a small toilet that whenever we are forced to use, we'll use it. And then we had a small desks, 2 desks, and a small area where we will actually put the sleeping bag and sleep. Because we had some projects where we had to deliver quick results. So we would code 24/7, maybe take 2 or 3 hours break just to go and take a bath and come back. And then we would sleep at night, taking shift, 2 hours sleep and 2 hours coding. And we were working in such a situation. So of course, it wasn't a comfortable situation at all. So, but that was like for around a period of 6 months, we were working in that condition. But then earlier this year, as I mentioned earlier, we actually moved to a bigger office where we now have, I would say, comfortable space, one whole floor. So the whole apartment is an office apartment. We have a comfortable space. It looks really good, and we also have staff area where we have 2 staff who will be working with us. But personally, we had been running into issues. We have been running into difficulties, and when getting staff, because currently less staff, less people, less developers actually prefer to work in a private sector. You see, in the field of web development, in the Maldives, we have lots of developers, people who are skilled, but they are occupied in different other sectors that they cannot focus on web development itself. So one difference we actually wanted to bring out is that we are web developers 24/7. Our work, our main income is in the field of web development. Yes, we do run an academy, but our main work is in the field of web development, and that's the reason why our clients, they trust us.
So after Jailam's talk, you might think you needed like a big office or something to grow. But actually, when you are small, you can leverage your size. So what I mean is, let's say bigger companies, they have more overheads, right? But if you are small, you have less overhead. You can charge more competitive prices, and you can get more profit. So even for us, initially when we went for projects, since we actually had 0 overhead, to be honest. So that's why we could undercut our competition. So that's actually a very good way to, once you initially start, to beat the competition.
So the next thing is you need to grow. You actually need to have some amount of growth from one day to another, because the moment that you stop growing, if a business stops growing, then it's already dying. So whether it might be an extra like on your Facebook page, maybe we are doing social media marketing, or whether you have an extra client or another big project that pays you a bigger amount, you need to grow every day. So at the beginning, you might be working as a freelancer, and you don't have to be web developers. You're not given the recipe for web developers. Maybe you are a housemaker who is making cakes and selling them online, or maybe on Facebook. You have to start small, but later on you can expand it. Always remember that you should not maintain the same level of growth. You have to always grow. So if you can't grow it, then it's going to die. So every day, make an extra cake. Maybe if you're selling cakes, put an extra effort to make an extra cake. Get the cake sold. Get it reach to a bigger market every day, so that you and your business is actually growing. So overall, to conclude, I would say when you become, if you are trying to be, you're serious about becoming an entrepreneur, remember it has risks. It has got, you have to dedicate yourself. It's not going to be easy work, where you can work 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day and take the whole day off. No, it's going to require your blood and your thirst and your hard work. Yes, you will have to make a brand which is trustworthy. You have to get clients who are going to come back for you. You have to try to grow your business every day, and at the beginning you try to make it as small as possible, but always grow every day. Try to plan something ahead. So when you dream, don't dream of something, a small business. Okay, I'm going to do a small business where I'm just going to make cupcakes and sell at home. No, dream big. Dream so that you will one day make a fantasy. You will create a bakery where you would actually sell cakes to everybody in the country. So that should be your dream, and you should expand it one day and by another, grow it until you reach your dream, and maybe then dream even bigger. So overall, I hope this was inspiring. I inspired you to not to quit your jobs, of course, but of course look before you leap. Try to entrepreneurship is something we should encourage in our society. We should all of us, we should become entrepreneurs, but in our own ways, on our own fields. Overall, this was our experience that we had bringing up Javaabu where we are today. Of course, we still have a lot to go. We have more milestones that we want to achieve. But hopefully we will be we will achieve them, inshallah. But thank you for the opportunity, and we hope that it was an interesting talk.